Welcome today to Think What You Will podcast, episode 2, here with me, Jason Suarez, and my co host, Rodrigo Puentes.
So, welcome everybody to our second episode of our podcast. We're going to be talking about the mind and the body, and we're going to go into depth as to how your thoughts and how you feel towards things and your perspective affects you physically and mentally.
Yeah, and we also have some research data to, discuss and to, show some of the, current trends in society, if with regards to mental health, to, suicides rates. But we'll dive into that a little bit later. So I would like to get to know what your idea is.
So, the idea for today's episode is we're going to be discussing and talking about how a lot of things in the world affects a person in our mind and in their minds, the way they think about things, and the way their perceptions affects them physically. Because there are a lot of people that have a bad perception towards life and towards the world, and that lets them think that it's okay to not take care of yourself, and in the long run they just don't look after themselves and end up facing a lot of health issues for it.
Yeah, I think we can summarize basically that idea with one word: mindset, right? It's the way you go about your daily life. It influences the decisions you make, whether it be personal or, financial and things. It all has to start with the mindset. So, what do you think about that?
I think that in our world, uh, mindset is a thing that a lot of people don't consider, because there are a lot of people that just go on their day-to-day lives and they don't take the time to learn about their own body, about their own mind. And a lot of people don't take time to just research and learn about ways to keep yourself happy, healthy, and just look after yourself.
So I'm guessing you're saying basically that a lot of people don't have a mindset today.
Yes,
You gotta say?
yes, 100%.
Okay. That's a bit of a harsh take, don't you think?
Yes, I do think it's a hard take on it. It's a really different perspective from everybody, I would say, but it's the one I have. It's the one I will stand by, because a lot of people are lazy and a lot of people don't take care of themselves.
Okay, well, how let's start from the beginning. Let's say, how would you know whether somebody has a mindset or not? How could you determine that? Because you're saying, oh, just because you're lazy, you don't have a mindset. Is that a rule, or what do you think?
I think it's more about conversations. You through conversations with people, you can notice whether or not they're looking after themselves, whether they have goals in life, whether they, or if they're just going by life day to day and just, you know, going with it. But it's everybody has their own choice. Everybody lives their own lives the way they want to. And I'm just trying to, call out everybody in a global perspective, because I feel like if we don't look after ourselves, no one's going to look after us. We're our own individual beings, and I've noticed throughout several experiences that a lot of people just like don't have this love for their selves, and
Mm.
that lets them just slack off and eat garbage and be unhealthy.
Well, yeah, I think so too. I think the mindset is a gateway to living either a healthy life or a not healthy life. But I think it's a little bit bigger than that. I don't think it's just, physical health and things like that. It can be mental health. I know somebody who, has a very harsh mindset on themselves, and that influences the way they perform because they always take a stance like, oh, I can't do something, I'm not good enough to do something, I will fail. And I think although that in a weird sense motivates them to do or work very hard for something, it makes them a very negative person. Um, so I think mindset has a very important, it's like I said, it's the window to living either a healthy life or even a successful life, right? So I think there's two fundamental or two basic mindsets that everybody has. It's, 7 billion people in the world, two different types of mindsets. You have a fixed mindset, an entity mindset, or you have a growth mindset, which means you want to build yourself and grow yourself. Um, Tell me what you know about those two ideas.
So I personally think I possess a growth mindset because I try to live my life on the basis of improving myself, trying to be better than I was yesterday, even if it's just by a little bit, you know? Because if you improve 1% every day, at the end of the year, you'll be like way better than you were at the beginning of the year. So
Mm.
I don't think a lot of people think that way. I think a lot of people have a fixed mindset on what life is, which is, oh, be born, go to kindergarten, go to school, and then university, get a job, uh, maybe get a husband or a wife, a couple kids, get a house, a car, live a life with your kids, grow old, and die. And that's not
Mm.
how I want to live my life. I personally want to live my life with a growth basis where I am open to meet a lot of new people because by meeting a lot of new people you embrace different cultures, different perspectives, and you grow a lot. And I also want to live my life on the basis that I just want to be better than I was yesterday. I want to leave a positive mark on the world. I don't have to be well known or famous, but at least for the people that I know and around me, I want when I'm gone, I want to, leave a positive mark where they can, when I'm dead, they can look back and be like, look, Rodrigo's dead, but he left us with this. He was a positive guy. He was a guy that looked at life this way, and that's the way it should be.
Right. So you like the growth mindset. Okay. Well, just for the viewers who might not know the difference between basically a growth and fixed mindset. A fixed mindset is one that you're inherently born with certain values. You're born with certain capabilities, your intelligence, your IQ, right? What you look upon yourself and you know that you have, you know. And the fixed mindset basically dictates that you stay with that. You don't believe that you can change. You don't believe that you can grow, right? Which is something I can see that you don't like, right? You want to develop your capabilities. You want to get better at something. That kind of falls in the category of the growth mindset. It's also known as the incremental theory, which means that if you put work into yourself, if you develop yourself, you can get better. You can get more intelligent, more knowledgeable. You can become more healthy. And yeah, that's through various methods. It can be through positive feedback from other people, or doing things in your life, failing tests and wanting to do better. That's basically what that is. The growth mindset and the fixed mindset obviously influence people in the way they live their life, right? So I think that's a pretty interesting point of discussion, and let's dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, you could look at that. Like, I think of myself as a person with a growth mindset. Like, I don't think a
Mm.
lot of people, because it's hard to live your life on, I want to grow and be better than I was yesterday. Because it's the kind of life that makes you commit a lot of sacrifices. You got to sacrifice eating tasty junk food so you can be healthy, have the body you want, have that fit body that you might desire. Um, like sacrifices in waking up early, then sleeping in, so you can have more time to do things that you love. Maybe it's reading a book, maybe it's go out for a run, whatever it is you like to do. Because a growth mindset requires sacrifice, and it requires for you to have a good look in the mirror and recognize that you have a lot of flaws, and that you just got to work on improving them. And I don't think a lot of people are ready to look in the mirror and be like, crap, I just, you know, got to work hard on myself to be better.
Yeah, and that has to do with discipline too, right? You got to discipline yourself to do the things that you need to do in order to grow, right? It's cutting out all the excess stuff that aren't productive for you and replacing it with healthy things. It's kind of like the idea I believe in is the sense that before you can build healthy habits, you got to cut out the bad ones. If you don't come out the bad ones, it's very hard to build healthy habits. Because anytime that you don't feel motivated to do those healthy habits, you'll naturally fall back into your unhealthy habits, right? So it's very hard to get out of that. Now, if you start on a clean slate, you take out all those unhealthy habits, then you have a chance. You don't have something pulling you constantly back.
It comes to
Withhold.
sacrifice. You got to
Yes,
sacrifice a lot to get rid of your bad habits to build healthy ones. It takes a lot of sacrifice and a lot of hard work, and I don't think a lot of people are ready to put that amount of work to make themselves
yes,
better.
yeah. It's like in studies, right? You can study or not study. It takes maybe a little bit of sacrifice, right? Maybe you don't watch so much TV, you don't watch so much Netflix, you study more, right? Um, and obviously that influences will come to influence who you are, but also the way your grades and things. So I did some research and I found an experiment done by the Society for Research in Child Development. It's in the U.S. And they basically took 373 seventh graders from an inner city New York school and they divided them into two groups. One that had a fixed mindset. Um, well, all of them basically technically had a fixed mindset, but they divided them into two groups. One would be an experimental group, and one would be a control group. So the control group stayed with their fixed mindset. They observed these kids along, a semester, along a year, and saw their scholastic results. And the other group was the experimental group, and they observed them by encouraging them to have a growth mindset and also giving them extra support. And one of the things that they noticed was that there was an increase of grades over a semester in the kids from the experimental group, and it was almost like triple. It was three times as many students in the growth mindset group that showed an increase in effort and motivation compared with the control group. So mindset technically can affect things like that. It can affect things like the way you study and will eventually result to. So in the fixed mindset group, right? There's 373 kids. So, it's about 180 kids in each group, right? Of those 180 kids, yes, there were some that had a naturally growth mindset group. Maybe, what? I don't know. They watched, you know, motivational videos or whatever online, and they're like, hey, I want to improve my school grades. Or maybe they're pressure from their mom or parents, right? Push them to get better grades. But that's just natural, right? But still, a majority of those kids stayed with a fixed mindset. Now, in the experimental group, there was a pushing on, right? There was an encouragement by exterior and outside forces for the kids to develop growth mindsets. And what that eventually resulted in was, yes, there were still kids that stayed with a fixed mindset, which is, natural, it's normal, it's nothing to be ashamed of. But three times as many in that group, the experimental group, developed better grades and
Yeah,
developed a
so you would say that people with a growth mindset are more likely to achieve better things than people with a fixed mindset.
100%.
Yeah, because it takes a lot to grow. And with the study, I feel like those kids maybe felt like with the extra support, they had more room to, fail and still be cared for. And they just like, okay, I'll fail and just keep going. Because I feel like support is something that a lot of people lack. And maybe that makes them just stay in their corner and stay with their thoughts and have a fixed mindset and not just grow, because growth, you need to you need to fail in order to grow.
For sure. Interesting thing I wanted to talk about. I think I mentioned the fact that, some of those kids would possibly have naturally from, you know, watching motivational videos, develop a growth mindset, right? I know that you started an Instagram page called Motivational 365, right? About that. What motivated you to start that?
So the name was Motivational Flicks 365.
I was like, the motivational Netflix. Like, I was like, what? It's motivational flicks 365, right?
Yeah, it is. It's basically from that concept. I added the 365 because there was already a motivation flicks page, and I
Okay.
didn't even know about it because I was just on my notebook, and I was just coming up with names. And I started that page because it's just I wanted to post at least something daily for myself to keep myself encouraged and motivated. And I guess if people like my content, to follow and join me in the journey. And I didn't create the page to make money. I don't care to make money with that. It's more of a page to motivate myself, help myself you know, keep myself in the right road to my dreams, and help others go into their own roads to achieve what they want to achieve, or to be motivated, to do things that they want to do. So in that page, I post some posts that I create with quotes that have been said by famous people, or I remix other people's reels from other accounts that they post, and I just put them in my page because I think they're important videos that people should see. And so far, I started third week of December, or maybe the second week of December last year, 2022. And now I would say we have almost 2,300 followers. So I guess some people like the content and have joined me in the journey of self improvement.
Yeah. Well, we'll be sure to put the link down in that below. But another question I have is like, when you started that out, did you have an intended audience? Like, oh,
No,
like I want to direct for people who maybe are less motivated in life or possibly want to achieve great things in life, but they don't have, you know, motivation. And I'll use Instagram as a way to reach young people because a lot of them are on social media. Is there anything of that or?
I didn't have a specific audience in mind. It was more so, it comes to the topic of fixed mindset and growth mindset as well. Because I feel like there are a lot of people with a fixed mindset, but on social media, on the internet, there's a lot of good content and bad content. And I feel like the more good content you see, the more likely you are to develop a growth mindset. The more the more likely you are to, see something that will inspire you to learn things or grow or improve yourself. And I just started that page honestly because I was inspired to, and I just wanted to be a good reference to people. But I don't put my name on the account at all. My name, people don't know that I'm the one that owns the account, that posts the content, that makes the content. I just make the content and put it out there anonymously. So maybe somebody's just scrolling on Instagram and sees it. I'll be like, oh wow, actually this is good. Maybe I'll go check out the page and sees
Mhm.
more content. Be like, wow, this is good content. This is I feel a little bit inspired to pursue self growth, to motivate myself, achieve my dreams or goals or whatever it is the person wants to do.
Yeah,
It's
so
for
it's
all
not a page.
ages.
Yeah, it's not a page that promotes yourself, right? It's a page that helps people in their daily struggle in a growth mindset, for example, right? Because I think that it is something that people need help with. Well, I mean, everybody needs help with on a daily basis, right? They need something every day to keep pushing them forward. Because there's a lot of struggles nowadays with mental health. And, it's very hard to find sources, of either information or sources of support, people who understand what you're talking about, people who aren't afraid to talk about those things, aren't afraid to talk about, mental health struggles, afraid of talking about depression and things. So yeah, I think that's a good project to have, and I think that's definitely good. But I think that's a good transition, and let's delve into the idea of, mental health and a little bit of that.
I would say mental health is something that there's way more awareness now than there used to be if you go look at history. But I still think that especially teenagers, young adults struggle a lot with it because I feel like a lot of people are lost, and they don't know what they want. And there's a lot of pressures in society for success, for maybe for the kind of body you should have, the kind of way you should look. But also, I would say it's mostly because of social media,
Mm.
and I think that affects a lot of people because you see, let's use an example. Maybe I see a guy with a, an amazing fit body that I want to achieve as well. And maybe instead of being like, wow, I should check out what kind of workouts he does to have that, I'll be like, wow, he has that and I don't, and I'll feel sad or
Mm.
something. I'm not saying that's specifically my case because it's not, but it's just an example. Um, and I feel
There's
like,
generally a higher sorry to interrupt. There's
go
generally
ahead.
worse cases of that, especially in women, I would say. There's definitely in general with social media nowadays, right? There's lower, I would say in general, lower self-esteem from women because they're always comparing themselves to what you were saying, images online and things.
Yeah, I know a lot of women that are not fat, and because of the idealistic concepts and perceptions that Instagram models post and things like that, a lot of them end up thinking that they're fat when they're not, or end up or be like, "Oh, I'm not attractive," but they are, you know. And it's just kind of a placebo effect on your brain. It's just you always
Mm.
end up comparing yourself to someone else. And I think that you should only compare yourself to you. Put put yourself to your own standards. Uh, Bring your standards up, of course. Put yourself in high standards because I think it's important to try to live life to high standards.
Yeah, the placebo effect, right? When people believe something, um, you know, it's hard to convince them of otherwise. And sometimes it's a very tricky thing to deal with, right? Because the thing with the placebo effect is like, um, people believe in something, right? Oh, I'm not as good as I think I am. Look at these people online, whatever, whatever, whatever. I don't look as good as them. And I don't mean appearance wise, in the sense that I don't appear to be maybe on the same level as them. Let's say you could be just as smart as anybody out there. You could be just as smart as, you could, for example, you could be just as good as an actor as somebody on a movie set, and you can be like, oh, I know I'm just as good. But over time, you're kind of convinced because they're on screen and you're not, you're convinced, oh, I'm not as good as them. And that constant reminding of yourself, right? That constant false belief, in a sense, that you aren't something eventually might make you that. So one day, you do go audition. Maybe you used to be a good actor, but now that you've got self confidence and you've forced yourself to believe a lie that you aren't good at something, sometimes that makes you, become not good at something, right? That's the basic fundamental idea of the placebo effect, right?
And talking more in a general sense of mental health, I feel like um, there's a lot of things online that bring a person's mental health down. Like maybe let's say you post something and a lot of people just come into your comment section and just start like coming at you with really bad comments, hateful comments, and it makes you feel self-conscious. It makes you hate yourself because of what people are saying online. And there's a lot of celebrity examples that can be used on TikTok, Instagram, things like that. That they post something and then the comment section is just rammed with distasteful comments, and they end up just turning off all comments because they can't take it. And I feel like social media is very beneficial, but it has that dark side to it as well. And I feel like that dark side ends up destroying a lot of people's mental health. It brings their mental health down so much. It can bring them into depression. It can bring them to have suicidal thoughts. Maybe those people that have depression and suicidal thoughts and other things like that. They may not have a lot of friends. They may not be super close to their parents, and I feel like we should support each other and not try to bring each other down. I don't see why people have joy in attacking someone else and like in a mental health sense where they say something that is distasteful just to bring someone down. Like for me, I want to bring myself up and others with me. I want to be an inspiration to people. I want to bring across a message that people should help each other and not bring each other down. Because if we help each other, the world will be a much better place, which is
Yeah.
not. The world is dark.
Mhm. Yeah,
It
social
may be
media,
a harsh take, but it is dark.
it is. And social media world is darker too, right? and that's people manifesting their insecurities on Instagram to bring down other people, right? So yeah, that and cyberbullying. A lot of times, sure, people can turn off, their comments, but sometimes it's not that easy, and it can resort in a lot worse cases of suicides and things like that, right? Um, so yeah, I think people need to be a little bit more aware of their actions, a little bit more, aware of the implications of how what they do or what they say can affect others.
Before we keep going, I just want to come across and say this message that I think is really important. If you feel like you have depression, suicidal thoughts, or other bad thoughts in that sense, or even worse, please see someone that can help you, or contact your parents, or contact your closest friends for help, because you're not alone, and there are people out there that love you, that care for you, and you're not alone. So no matter what you're going through, no matter what it is, you're strong enough to make it through. So please, if you have depression or signs of depression or suicidal thoughts, please see someone or make contact with someone so you can know that you're not alone and that there are people out there that care for you and love you. And if you need, contact us and we'll be there for you as well.
For sure. And I think that's an interesting subject that you touched on, because in the recent decade, right, there's obviously been a growing awareness for suicide, right, and mental health illness. And the good thing about over the last decade is that there's been a growing awareness, obviously, of suicides and mental health. So there's been a greater resourcefulness on part of, for example, you know, society upon, mental health societies to have people who are able to communicate with people with suicidal thoughts and give them support, right? So there's been a general uptrend of about 60% of people with suicidal thoughts being able to consult, um, you know, mental health, psychiatrists and things like that.
And I guess this connects to our topic, the mind, about the mind and the body, because um, if you have depression, suicidal thoughts, or just bad thoughts in general, you may look to hurt yourself, and that brings harm to your physical well-being as well. Your psychological well-being is going to be really bad, and so will be your physical because you will look to hurt yourself. And that brings me to the topic where the mind and your mindset, the way you perceive things, is very important to your physical well-being as well, because everything starts up here in our big brain. Our physical well-being, I would say, starts with our thoughts and the way we see things. Because if we see things in a bad way where we look to hurt ourselves, it will bring us physical harm, which could lead us closer to death. But if we're suffering from something and we get help, it will help us to be physically healthy and psychologically healthy as well. So if anyone's that is watching this is struggling with something, please contact someone. Even if it's us, if you just want to talk or send a message to open up about what you think or feel, or please, or see a specialist, a therapist, or a specialist in that area. So because they're way more qualified than us to help, um, please do, because it's important not only for your mental well-being but for your physical as well.
Hmm. A lot of people get trapped in the depression cycle nowadays because of a lot of the pressures that, especially the Gen Z face, right? Going back to last week's topic, the Gen Z, right? And their struggles, in today's society, right? There's a lot of problems in today's society, right? There's economic uncertainty, there's life uncertainty. You're not sure nowadays whether you get a job if you graduate from college. You don't know if you're going to make enough to pay the rents because the job market is, just in a bubble. It's crazy, right? People have a lot of uncertainty about their future, right? In schools, young people, right? There's shootings now in schools, right? Well, this is in America, right? In other places in the world, there's also a lot of dangers for that. So that is definitely a troubling thing of today's society. And according to the World Health Organization, about 280 million people, you know, in
Wow.
the in the world have suffer from depression, so
Oh wow, that
it's
is
definitely one of the biggest problems.
that's a big number.
That is a big number.
That is a
And they
big
say
number.
about 42% of Americans, of Gen Z Americans are likely to have depression. So it's definitely,
That is a crazy statistic. That's a
yeah.
lot of people, and that is crazy. So I guess this topic we're talking about is really important because if you can fix what's wrong up here, you'll be able to fix your physical issues. You know,
Mhm.
maybe maybe if you're happier or if you're more okay with yourself, you maybe go to the gym more often. Maybe just go for a run because run has a lot of cardiovascular benefits. Um, and I agree with you that our generation is going to face a lot of difficulties in the upcoming years and in the future in general, because I feel like life is going to get harder from here.
Mhm.
There are a lot of issues that we're all going to have to face as a generation and going to have to fix, and it's going to be up to us. So I guess if we can inspire people to look after themselves and take care of themselves, we will be more more prepared to tackle the issues that will come up in the future, because I am 100% certain there will be a lot of issues that will come up in the future that Generation Z is going to have to be the one that's going to have to tackle them.
Yeah. We are going to have to be the ones tackling them, right? And we have to be self-aware of them and self-aware of the problems and, know how to deal with them. Um, I think it's a very important process of, they say for a person suffering from mental health, there's three fundamental steps, right? First step is rescue, second, recover, the third, rebuild. The first one's rescuing yourself from dangerous thoughts, rescuing yourself from a mental health problem, right? When you do that, you can recover. You can recover from the past emotional pain. You can move on with your life. You can finally say, okay, I'm past that chapter in my life. Let's look forward to the next chapter, which is rebuilding, which is finding new things to do, finding new healthy habits to to put in your life, and that's very important. Because if not, there's the whole society is just gonna go downhill, right? They say
And collapse.
the second leading cause of deaths in America is suicides. The second
That is
leading cause.
crazy. That
Okay.
is
So
crazy.
according to the National Institute of Mental Health, the suicide rates from 2007 to 2019 rose 60%. And from 2019 to 2020 alone, which was the first year of COVID, and we understand how that impacted people's lives, just that year it rose
I
31%.
guess COVID was a very struggling time for us
Yeah.
and for everybody in the world in general.
Adults
A lot
too.
a lot of people have passed away, unfortunately, to the COVID pandemic. So a lot of people faced family losses, which is terrible. Um, and being stuck at home, you know, just you not being able to go outside or see your friends or whatever it is that people love to do. It's just, I guess it brought a lot of people to a really bad mental state where they chose to commit suicide because they thought that was the only way out. And I'm glad that the COVID pandemic is gone. It's not gone. COVID still exists, but
Yeah.
it's over in a sense where quarantines are not necessary anymore. Being stuck at home is not an option anymore. Everybody can go out, enjoy themselves, and if you get COVID, it's just nowadays it's more like a casual thing because of the vaccines that were produced and
Mhm.
most people have now. So it's not as infectious, it's not as deadly, and yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it was a really tough time.
for sure. And just because COVID goes away doesn't mean the problem's going to go away, right? It's going to continue to be a problem for years with, recessions and economic problems. So I think this is an important topic for us to discuss in today's episode. And I'm glad we covered it. I think we covered some good topics today in general.
Yeah, I feel like today's episode is going to be really good for us and for whoever watches and listens to the podcast, to this episode, and hopefully the previous one as well. We're putting in a lot of hard work, and not only are we growing as people by doing this, but hopefully
Mhm.
we're gonna help our audience grow and tackle these issues as well. And we're not experts in any sense whatsoever, but we can together, us and the audience, grow together and communicate and just go in the same path.
Yeah, for sure. And we're quite glad also. I think we received quite a bit of feedback from, people watching our podcast. That was good. We like the good comments, but we also like the bad comments because, we know where we can improve and work on. So don't be afraid to always let us know your thoughts and tips and things that you guys want us to hear about as your podcast host. So yeah.
Thank you for tuning in for our second episode. And don't be afraid to contact us for anything, feedback, if you need to open up and do other things. We'll be able to reply and reach out as well. So thank you very much, and hopefully you enjoy it.
So yeah, thank you for tuning into our second episode, and we hope you enjoyed it. And as usual, we'll be releasing new episodes every Sunday on our YouTube channel and our other platforms. So make sure to check that out.